Pull up. Park it. Kick back, spark it. Welcome to the spot where money talks honest. Yeah. This is Gosh Talk with Bill Haase. Real life money in your front seat. From the paycheck to the profit. Turn that I don't know to I got this. Gosh Talk with Bill Haase. Blueprint stacked on the workbench. From the hustle to the harvest. Learning what they never really taught us. So if you're tired of the fine print winning, slide a chair in, that's a new beginning. We keep it straight, keep it smart, keep it classy. You're tuned in now, Garage Talk with Bill Haase.
Welcome back to Garage Talks with Bill Haase. We like to talk about all things financial and things that affect you maybe on a daily basis or in other financial ways. Today, it's going to be more of a way of jobs. And I have a special guest here today, Jeannette Seibly. We appreciate you coming on and filling us in on all you do. She's a best-selling author. She's got 3 business books out there. Right? She teaches things like leadership, does coaching for small businesses, family-owned businesses. She's got a number of different areas that she works in: retention of employees and hiring. How to get that right job, how to win that interview. So let's welcome Jeannette. Thanks for joining me on the show. Appreciate having you.
Good morning from Denver.
Oh, from Denver. That's right.
That's right. You gotta love technology when it's working.
Yeah, exactly. But and every place is better to live than Illinois. But still, I'm stuck here. But tell us, what are you really passionate about? Because I know you've been doing this for 33 plus years, and you've been in the same category. You've been doing the same thing, so you must love what you're doing.
I do. I love the difference. In fact, I wrote this quote that I really speaks to what I'm focused on today. Because as you know, as you go through the years, things shift here and shift there.
Yeah,
but the quote I wrote was, "Legacy doesn't wait for courage. It's shaped by the moments you move forward anyway." And so this really speaks to things I've been doing since I was age 16, when I was on a board of directors at that age and vice president. And it was amongst a group of adults. So
right.
I learned leadership real young. But I also remember one employer, again, prior to 33 years, obviously, and this is back in Detroit, and back then being a woman in a male-dominated industry, it had its challenges. Not to say some people still don't have these challenges, but I really had those challenges. And I remember calling up 2 high-level consultants, and I said, what do I do? How do I navigate through this? And they said, "I don't know how to help you." And so when I left that employer, and I became a coach. That wasn't the intention, because back then coaching was non-existent unless you're at the very top level of an organization. Where
sense.
Coaching today, everybody who's up to anything has a coach to help them move forward, help them create that legacy in a positive way. And it's been fascinating, the kind of issues that come up that today can be resolved. And sometimes it just takes a simple conversation. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it takes more than that. But I know some of my clients recently have really been growing. It's just amazing to watch. I applaud them from the sidelines. I applaud them from getting involved with them and helping them with their hiring. But a lot of it is for them, it's not like they didn't already have it within them. It's they didn't have the people to support that growth. And then working with me, which has been my focus, is on helping people management issues, to empower your people, empower yourself to get out there, hire, coach, and manage in such a way that makes a positive difference not only for your employees, but also for your clients, also for your communities.
Well,
So I love it.
I'm a firm believer there's a solution to every problem.
Correct.
And when you talk about, do you have the right people and such? With my team and the people I employ, everybody's called a contributor. It's you're not an employee, you're a contributor, and I'm a contributor, and we have equal value, and I think that gives each person some skin in the game, and when I bring them on, um, they also have to buy into what I'm doing and what I'm trying to accomplish. That's very, very important when I'm hiring somebody. But you're an expert at this. How does somebody go out and win that job?
Well, there's a lot of ways to win a job, and today you have the added challenge of so many people are unemployed. You also have ageism. You have a lot of other issues that a lot of HR people are grappling with, or small business owners who may not have an HR department. But the biggest thing is to be really clear what it is you're looking for. My focus is in my book, Hire Amazing Employees, is focused on job fit. And this is something that was created years ago by Harvard Business Review. And they did a big, huge study, over 360,000 people. And what they were looking for is what made people successful. Was it gender? Was it race? Was it this? Was it that? And what they found out was it had nothing to do with those factors. What it was is your fit with the job. And so job fit, according to Gallup, over 80% of people are in jobs today that don't fit them. That's why there's
That doesn't surprise me.
a lot of burnout, a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
things that employers could do better in hiring, because a lot of them still do this intuitive thing, which is all bias anyway. Like, oh, I liked how she spoke, or I liked how he looked, or, something like that. I mean, some of the things that people come up with are just scary, but that's just it is. Um, but anyway, I just love it when people are in the right job, because they can then succeed beyond what they know is
Yeah.
possible, as opposed to going in every day and trudging through the day, being bored, being
Just
unhappy.
just there to collect a paycheck.
Yeah, but they blame everybody else. They blame their coworkers, they blame their boss, they blame their client, they blame the company. They blame, as opposed to looking within and saying, okay, what is it that I need to get real about, like real about, in putting together job fit? Like, how do I know? I remember a young man, this was years ago, and I was working with a client, and the guy just didn't have the interest in the industry. This is a tech industry,
Okay.
and just didn't have the interest. Scale of 1 to 10, he was at a 1. I mean, literally no interest. I had an objective assessment that showed that, etc. And what was interesting is says, well, maybe in the future I can come to like it. I thought, well, from 1 to 10, I don't know about that. But what was interesting is that he started to talk about mechanics. He really loved race caring, like just adored. You could just hear him, his whole being just, oh, it was just, and I said, wow, there's a lot of market out there for that. I mean, you could, like
Yeah.
mechanic, high-end cars,
Yeah.
set up some kind
Absolutely.
of auto shop for them. We used to have a client that did that. I said, and he would just be, just excited. But here's the issue. His family wouldn't have approved, because it would have been dirt under the nails.
That's an issue, right?
It is. It's a
You
true
know,
issue.
our families and our parents have expectations, or at least we believe that our parents have expectations, and in many cases they truly do. And one of the problems I have with that is parents, they'll pay for you to go to good schools, and maybe private schools, and then pay for you to go to college, and then you're done and you get out, and they're like, okay, good luck. Show the world what you got. And it's like zero preparation, and the expectations aren't even spoken, but they're felt.
Yeah.
By young adults, they're felt strongly. There's a lot of pressure there to get that big job, to start making some good money, to prove to the world you're of great value. And it's unfair pressure, but and it leads you into jobs that you might not normally seek, and jobs where you're not happy. I know tons of people in the corporate world that are not happy, but they won't leave because they make too much money.
Well,
And
that and what else they're going to do. I mean, I remember one time speaking. One of the things that one of the books, series of books I wrote is on how to brag, how to get your brag on, how to sell yourself, share yourself in such a way that people really get what you've done, as opposed to, yeah, I've done that. Well, what did you do exactly? And so, what was fascinating, one time I did a presentation in front of unemployed executives. And I was taking them through the brag work where they actually had to look to see what had they accomplished.
yeah,
They were upset. They were angry. Like, why should I have to do this? My job title should tell everybody what it was I accomplished. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. That's
mhm.
not how it works.
Yeah, well, job search has changed
Oh, it
dramatically,
has.
right? Over the time period that you've been involved in this, and I understand about the value of retention as well as a business owner. One of the things I've seen proven is by teaching employees financial literacy, the
Yes.
retention increases dramatically, and the happiness of the people. Now they understand money, less stress, better relationships, better health, all that. But you got to get into the job first, right? And I hear talk about AI. Oh, AI is picking certain buzzwords out, or you know, um, yeah, and
Yeah,
now
let's do that.
yeah, but it's so you have to write a resume nowadays, not towards your talents and your gifts, but towards what you think they're that those people are looking for, right?
Well,
And
you
how,
do. And AI is kind of a snob. It's
yeah,
interesting because recently I wrote two different articles on AI and hiring. And
okay,
I wrote it with AI. So I wrote it, I had AI review it, and some of the stuff I was like really taken aback by. But
yeah.
one of the things the biggest thing was AI is a snob.
Well,
So
and
if you don't
AI
have
has
the
no heart.
right title, they're not going to give you credit for anything. Or if
Yeah.
you don't have a specific experience, again, they cannot assume anything. It's black and white. That's how they look at life.
Well, they have no heart and soul. Yeah, right.
They
AI,
don't. That's not how
it's
they were designed.
as an author myself, and I've worked with a number of different AI systems, and I always laugh. I'm like, why'd you take that story out? Of this chapter, you took a whole chapter of mine, you dropped it down to 3 paragraphs. I go, you just lost the whole message, and I got so frustrated. I just said, I'm just not going to deal with you anymore. But, but, um, but
And
you can't,
Amazon's going, yes, that's probably a good thing.
right? But
They don't like
people,
you to use AI when you
you know,
write.
yeah, but people going out and searching for jobs, they have to deal with it. Because they're missing the boat if they don't. It's unfortunate that you just can't be sincere and heartfelt in what you're putting in a resume. Um, you, you know, I mean, I remember a resume was just a basic thing. And I'm going back to the early '80s. Um, but as you came along, it developed into more of a target.
Mhm.
You would target certain markets, do a little bit of research on that company, and target that company and their philosophy and how they work, and you would kind of gear it more towards that to get an edge. And that doesn't even work anymore. Um, I mean, how do you get past this AI stuff? How do you get past the gatekeeper?
Well, the thing that I've always taught, and I learned myself having gone through unemployment back in the 90s, is to get out there and talk with people. And so there's a lot of misconception on how to network. It's not, everyone says, oh, they got to know, like, and trust you. Well, yeah, kind of, sort of. But talking about your pets and your kids and your likes and dislike about your employer isn't going to help you with that. And what you want to do is come at it more from a business perspective. What have you achieved? What is it that they, learn more about that company, what it is they're about, because they're like 90% of what happens inside of a company is in other people's heads. Even AI can't tell you what it is.
Yeah.
Because if people have been there or still are in that environment, they can tell you the real story. And I remember one time interviewing with this woman, and I did that. I really did that. I knew stuff, and I scared the what out of her. I had to snicker afterwards. Of course, I didn't get the job because I scared her, because I had done my homework. But I also knew that wasn't the environment that I wanted to work in after having gone through all of that. So that's what it's about, is really getting out there and talking with people. Because as much as people want to rely on AI, when everything's said and done, people are still gravitating towards the employees that they know, like, and trust. Now, the problem with that is, do they actually have the interest, the thinking style, the core behavior that's going to support that job? That's where they get themselves in trouble. So if companies actually had a system that not only that they've designed that's legal, but they also follow it and practice it, it'll make a big, huge difference in the type of people that they attract and the type of people they hire.
Yeah, it's you bring back memories for me on interviews. I once went into an interview with a finance company, and I sat down with three people that were much younger than I was, and the one person just looked at me and she goes, "Why are you here?" Because my resume was outshone all three of them in that room by a long shot, and I was going to be working underneath them. And so they were scared to death already, which I was just like, duh, what was I thinking? And the one girl just looked at me and she goes, "This is the best resume I've ever seen." And I'm like, "Well, how long have you been in business?" It's like, and so it was, there was no, I knew instantly there was no chance I was getting that job, because they would have been scared to death that, in a month I'd be their boss.
If you lasted that long. If you lasted that long.
If I lasted that long, which I probably wouldn't have. Yeah, that's a great point. But what about this? I mean, hiring for attitude, personality.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can be taught a job. You can learn a job, but you can't teach somebody how to be happy, how to be, productive. To somebody who is not a disruptor, because that's really the nightmare, right? Hiring somebody who's a disruptor.
For some companies, they say they want a disruptor, but if you go in as a disruptor, you get booted out because you're too disruptive. So I don't know.
You got to develop slowly.
One of the things I've really been advocating for over 34 years is the use of not only a system, but also to use a real qualified job fit assessment. There's over 3,000 assessments out there in the market today, and 99.999% of them do not qualify under the Department of Labor guidelines for pre-employment and selection use. That's the science and legal behind it. I'm not going to go any further with that, so the listeners don't need to get too nervous.
Thank you. Yeah, we don't want to go into the weeds, but yeah.
But the point is when you use that along with real interview questions. So if I say, "Hey, Bill, what's your favorite color?" and you say blue, look at the background behind you. What am I going to do with that? Yeah. What am I going to do with that? Well, I'll make it mean something. What happens is I then decide whether or not to hire you. All based on the color blue.
Remember what color is my balloon?
Yes.
Assessment.
What color is my parachute, I think?
What color is my parachute? Yeah, Yeah, it could be parachute.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
I think it was. It
I
was a
probably
long
lost
time
that brain
ago.
cell, but
It's
yeah,
a good book. It was a good
I
book.
yeah, and but there's always been, challenges to finding the right person and challenges to finding the right job is being on both sides, right? And
Correct.
a lot of people, I don't even know that they, especially young folks, I don't think that they truly look at what they love to do, what their gift is, and to search for a job in that area. Um, it's more about, with titles. Can I get a job with a great title and
And
how much
paycheck.
money?
Don't forget my
Oh,
paycheck.
right. I want to get
And
paid.
how much time do I get off?
But in the corporate world, they throw titles around more than money, right?
Yeah, they do.
I kept getting promoted at a bank I was working at, to different levels of the same job. It was just, we're going to give you a higher, better title. And I finally said, well, how much does that pay? They're like, what do you mean? I said, well, this is my third. I'm now the first one to be at level 3, and you keep telling me all we want is 20% more work out of you. And I'm like, you already know I get 110%. I was a top 5% producer for a Fortune 50 bank in the country, and they wanted 20% more work out of me. And I'm like, sure. What's it pay? And they're like, what? And they were selling this on the title. And they didn't know that I was going to sit there, and it was in a Friday. And I said, I'll tell you what, Monday you come back with an answer, and then I'll have an answer for you. And Monday I went back, they said, we'll give you a 5% raise. I said, fine, done. So I got a 5% raise. Am I going to do 20% more work? I couldn't. I was at full capacity. It didn't matter.
Oh,
But I got a raise. And then other people would come by and they go, hey, I'm level 3 just like you. And I said, you're welcome. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, didn't you get the 5% raise with that? Well, no. I said, well, you took you took on more responsibility. Don't you feel like you should get paid more? Now comes the disruptor out of me, right? And, and it just blew my mind that not one single person had asked about whether it paid more. They just
well,
loved getting the
I
title.
think a lot of our Gen Zers and Gen Yers, at least the younger Gen Yers, are doing a much better job of that
Okay.
on one hand. On the other hand, they still need the job because, again,
Yeah.
some companies, and I was surprised to see this, actually will let a Gen Zer go just because they want, but they're not willing to contribute more, which I don't know that I agree because the Gen Zers I've met have an ingenuity that I just love. I mean, it's just like, wow, look at that. What a great idea. The problem is they're not clear how to go about implementing it, and how they go about it sometimes is more than disruptive. It's sometimes people take it offensively, but that's true with any generation.
I was
So
going to say any
us
generation.
baby boomers did it too. So
Yeah, I mean any generation has its go-getters and it has those the lazy side too.
yeah, those disruptors.
That's
Yeah.
every generation, and I so dislike when we pick on generations and say this particular one is woke or this particular one doesn't want to work, or has high
Yeah.
expectations
I don't
for
agree with that. I just
we have that in every generation, and
exactly.
you know but so I want to go. I want to go out and get a job. I mean, but times are tough. I mean, the job markets, the job report will come out next Friday. Expectations are low for that. We're averaging only 25 to 50,000 additional jobs per month, which is not an economically financial stable position. Back when I was in the trading pits, we looked for numbers like 300 plus thousand per
Wow.
month. And that was what was needed to keep the economy stable. Um, Now we're only doing on average, over the last say 8 months, about 25 to 50,000. So that makes it challenging, right? The unemployment rate really isn't going up that much, or at least folks seeking unemployment. We used to have that conversation with, well, people just quit looking.
Yeah.
and how do you count those people? And, things of that nature. I know we still have some of that going on, but I'm a go-getter. I need a job. I want a job. How am I going to go get it?
Well, first, you're going to get clear about what you really, really, really want. Like what's in your heart and soul. You know what's there. Stop trying to mimic other people. I think that is probably the worst thing that has happened to so many people. They go, I want to be this. I want to be that. I want to be like so and so. In fact, I talked with a woman who wanted to be a financial broker. And she did everything she could to get that job, and she got it. It took her a couple of years, but she got it. She lasted a month and then she quit
Hmm.
because it wasn't what she thought it was. So, in addition to get really clear what you really, really want, is use an assessment to get clear is does that support it or do you need to like shift just a bit? I remember one time a woman who had actually retired who wanted to be a trainer, but she wasn't somebody who could come, she'd have a hard time interacting with people. And I said, given everything that you've achieved, you'd be better off being a keynote speaker, and plus you'd make a lot more money, that kind of thing. And she goes, oh, no, 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 I want to be a trainer. I've already put my money into this group, and that's a
Hmm.
group of trainers. I said, it, and she did nothing. So instead of going one way or the other, she did nothing. So
Yep.
here's the thing,
Yep.
get real, take the actions necessary. But the other thing that I have found is get into the basics. A lot of people want to go out and be recruiters, where they want, oh, the big one right now is being a coach. What are you going to coach if you haven't been there, done that? Now, some people do a good job. Don't misunderstand me. That's come a long ways. But some people only do it until they can find a job. And so this
Yeah.
one, I remember hearing this one story from a large employer where this person, a young man, had been looking for work. And so he was doing something on the side where he was going to come in and help them with their sales process. And so the woman was being courteous, having the conversation. And then instead of coming in to help them as a consultant, he shifted it into being an employee. Like, what would it take to become an employee? So, when people do stuff like that, you send mixed messages, easy to
Yeah.
say,
Absolutely.
mixed with an X, messages. And so be clear what it is you want and then get the resume set up to support that. Do your brag work. Do your brag work. Do your brag work. I cannot emphasize that enough. I've been training people. I don't care where you're at in the hierarchy of an organization. I've trained them all.
I
Learn
often,
how to understand what you've done and the impact that that had on a company.
yeah, I often say, do your homework. Nobody does their homework anymore. I'm
They don't.
guilty of it. I point out in my book how I'm guilty of that. But I say it all the time. I was on a show last night in Australia and I'm like, do your homework. And the gal interviewing me, she was just laughing. She goes, how did you know we don't do our homework? I go, nobody does. It doesn't matter what culture, where you are in the world, nobody does. You
In
know,
fact, I had somebody tell me last week I had actually gone and looked to see what I was doing an interview of somebody for a publication that I write for, and they go, "Whoa, you actually did your homework!" Like he was so shocked. I said, "Well,
right?
of course, but you didn't have anything out there about you, so it was a little hard to do."
Well, if you're gonna go, if you have the privilege and honor of acquiring and getting a job interview, do your homework. Study the company. What
Yep.
are they doing? What can you learn about their culture? What can you learn about their leadership? You know, you know, and even about the person, if you can, that you're interviewing with. And we have LinkedIn, we have other sources. Um, but you know what? It doesn't matter. We just don't do our homework. It's easier just to believe in something and you know and just say no. This is how I feel it
Yep.
is, and we get locked in,
We
right?
do, and And it's like assessments. I'm just going to pick on that because this is so true. With so many assessments out there in the market that don't comply with the Department of Labor guidelines, EEO, ADA, and all the other alphabets out there.
Yeah.
They love their assessment that they have been used or that they created that doesn't have the validity, reliability. Again, it's getting down into the basics. If you're going to be an accountant, learn what a debit and a credit is.
That would help.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that don't. I mean, I've talked with accountant types. So what was your credit? What was the debit?
Yeah,
What was the profit? What was your variance? Well, what does all that mean?
one of the things I teach
Oh,
is difference between there's good debt and there's bad debt. And people go, what? And I go, okay. But it's studying, one of the things, and I want to learn from you some of the questions that you can be expected to be asked, but I hate the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Let me ask you something. 5 years ago, did you believe you'd be where you're at, or did you think you'd be farther along, or where did you think you'd be? Because in this day and age, things move so darn fast
they
that
do.
even a 5-year business plan is a crapshoot
Yeah.
in my mind. And,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking of it from a financial standpoint.
Correct.
And I understand businesses and how they're built and the finances behind it. You cannot predict 5 years out anymore. You just can't. Look at all these companies that are making record profits right now, and their stock prices are skyrocketing in some cases. And 302 out of the Fortune 500 have dramatically increased. But questions that you can expect to hear if I'm going on an interview, let's say.
Well, one of my favorite questions, and a lot of people do a naysay on it, but I love the question because it really helps set the tone, is tell me about yourself. And where people get themselves in trouble with that is number one, they're not prepared. They didn't read the job posting or the job ad or do their networking. So instead, they just ramble about their childhood and their kids and their dogs and stuff like that, which, can get you in some legal trouble. So stay away from it, okay?
Right.
But that's my favorite. So if you set the tone based on the job that you're interviewing for, having done the homework and putting your brag statements in alignment with it, guess what? You've gotten through the first big, huge hurdle there is.
Well, that's your book. Get your brag on. That's one of your books. Get your brag on.
Yeah, it's my favorite. This is the 5th edition. Get your brag on.
Yeah, and I love that because for me, I'm not going to talk about my dog or things like that. I'm going to say things
A lot
like,
of people do,
well,
though.
I'm a team player, and I love to work with the people around me to help make them better, because the weakest link is the best you are. So let's try and help everybody, and rise all boats with the tide here.
So instead of saying it that way, Bill, I want you to say it putting your brags in there.
Okay, so I would say things like, well, I'd like to continue doing what I've done in the past, and that is to
for the last 10 years.
Okay, for the last
Get
you're
your
going to
brags
be
in
even
there.
more specific, huh? Okay.
You got to get specific, because if you can get specific, you're talking business language.
Okay. Yeah, well,
You talk high level,
if you
people
know
have no
me,
clue what you're talking about.
yeah,
Or
if
they
you
go,
know
oh,
me,
he sounded so good, but it's like he doesn't have the skill required to do the job.
yeah, and I'm so anti-corporate.
Yeah.
I lasted 4 years in the corporate world, and I said I quit. My boss said, "Why?" I said, I can't do stupid anymore." And he looked at me and he goes, "I can't argue with that." So, and that was it. And I walked away, and I never went back to the corporate world. We just have a little bit of time left. So, what would you recommend to people? Obviously, buy your books. How do we get in touch with you?
So the best way to get in touch with me is go to my LinkedIn profile. I've got my name spelled there. So it's JEA Nnettee. Last name is S as in Sam, EI, B as in boy, LY. Because if you don't get the first name spelled correctly, you probably won't get the last name either. So anyway, go to my
And find her
LinkedIn profile
and find her on LinkedIn
and reach out and contact me. If that doesn't work, you can go to my website, but go to the contact page where it says Seibco, which is S as in Sam, EI, B as in boy, C as in cat, o.com/contact. That would probably be, that provides you other ways of getting in contact with me. Or you could just go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble or an Indie and get your Brag On book, or How to Win the Job. How to Win the Job, Start Bragging, or Hire Amazing Employees. All 3 books are on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or available through indie bookstores.
And let's be clear about all the talents that you bring to the table, and that you can work with business owners, family business owners, small business owners. You can work with to help hire the right person. You can help the people that are looking to get hired.
Correct.
You handle both sides, which is a unique position, because
Correct.
you know both sides. A lot
It's
of
unique.
recruiters,
Desk.
recruiters typically, they're more one-sided, and many advisors out there are very one-sided or lack enough experience to see what's really going on in this world. And this is a very active world with that job search, and companies are much more particular about who they bring on and who they hire, and people who are looking to get hired are getting a little more picky too, right?
Good, but that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And now what they want to do is stop relying on job search engines and get out there and start talking with people using their brags. Again, in my Get Your Brag On book, there's actually a full chapter, step by step, on how to set up and conduct an effective networking meeting.
There's a lot, job hunting is a job in and of itself.
It is. It very much so
That's
is.
what I'm hearing. And you
And
got
if
to
you do it right, you actually love it. I mean, I remember when I was out there doing it, the networking, I just loved it. I thought, oh, this is so much fun, but it doesn't pay you anything. That's the problem.
but
And you still have to pay your rent or your mortgage.
doing something right is fun, because you don't have to do it again, and do it the
Well, you
right
probably
way.
do in this day and age. I mean, it used to be, the old General Motors philosophy, 30 and out, 30 years and then you're gone.
Yeah.
Today, you're lucky if you've gone 3 years before you need to find another job.
Very few people are lasting 30 years anymore. And my wife came
People
close.
don't even know what that means.
Yeah. No, my wife came close. She was well into her 20s, or maybe 25 years, but then was actually picked to move to another business. But and she still misses her old business. But and that world changed dramatically too after she left, which was not for the better. But so I'm not going to name company names. But But look, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and enlightening us, about what's going on in that world, because I know there's a lot of folks out there, concerned and challenged.
There are.
And Jeannette is one of those people that can help you get over that hump and get into the game of life, moving forward, but in the right way. In the right position, the right job, the right company, the right philosophies, and such, which is so important, because those things give you a greater opportunity to last more than 3 years.
But it also creates your own personal legacy of courage,
Yeah.
because it is courageous to get out there and find a new job, find new opportunities, even start your own company, be a gig worker, whatever it is you do. I know a young man who not only has his own business, he also drives Uber. He enjoys both of them. I mean, he really does enjoy both of them. But it's rare that people really embrace what they're doing, but it creates a different legacy for people who know him. Like, oh, look what he's doing. If he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. I thank you so much for joining us on the show, enlightening us, providing us new knowledge and information that hopefully you're helping excite some people into going out there and doing things the right way and doing their homework and getting a
I hope
job,
so. I hope so. It's not
living
hard,
better
folks.
lives.
It isn't hard.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. I will talk to you soon, Jeanette.